How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and we got a lot of reports to break down in Mets land, highlighted by a massive update on Juan Soto. The big question is, how truthful is this reporting that we're about to get into? But it's one of the more intriguing ones yet that we have heard since the offseason has officially begun. From there, we're going to get into the latest signings for the New York Metropolitans, bringing back 2023 outfielder option for them, and yes, Rafael Ortega, and bringing in a very interesting either full-time reliever or swingman reliever, that being in Justin Hagenman. Everything that you guys need to know on those players, and then to wrap up the show, we're going to get into the latest on the qualifying offers. As we know, tomorrow 1 p.m. Eastern is a deadline for players to accept or reject said qualifying offers, and we have found out the latest in regards to Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, and Pete Alonso. Thank you guys for smashing like and subscribe on as your first chime in, and let me know your initial reactions and thoughts to the latest in Mets land down below. And before we get into it all, everybody, thank you all so much for hearing from our amazing sponsor at BetUS. It has you covered with all your sports betting needs. Head over to betus.com.pa today, everybody. That way you too can get involved in the action. That way you guys can go ahead and tail these respective bets that I'll be placing. Please know that I'm not a sports betting expert. I'm just a diehard sports fan that loves to place daily bets, especially with my amazing promo code at YouTube150. That way you too get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. We hit big time in our three-leg parlay in UFC 309 in Madison Square Garden over this past weekend. So now we're going to be hammering a two-leg NBA parlay for some games later tonight at the time of recording this. First, we have the Sacramento Kings outright in the money line in a key matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. Then we have the Golden State Warriors winning outright in the money line against the LA Clippers there. And that's a $20 parlay that's going to win us roughly $30, so hopefully a roughly $50 payout should both these teams win. Good luck to you all that tail these bets. And as always, shout out BetUS for all your sports betting needs. But all right, guys, let's get back in this one. Let's start off with something that I was not initially intending on discussing today. And for some clarity, everybody, the reason why a video did not come out sooner today is I've absolutely been under the weather, unfortunately. Got hit like a truck today. Was in bed until right around 5 p.m. And I was like, all right, we got to make Mets content today. So the grind never stops here on the platform, as always, folks. And right as I was about to get set to do this video, it was initially just going to be on the Mets signings, but then we hear some very interesting remarks from one Michael Kay there, of course, is in the play-by-play booth for the New York Yankees and covers them through Yes Network every single day for the most part. And this is what Michael Kay has to say on the latest with Juan Soto, the Yankees, and the Mets. Buckle up, everybody. Let's listen in.
But I will put it this way, and this is not something that Yankee fans are going to want to hear. I don't think the Yankees are going to go there. I don't. And then I've heard from somebody in baseball today that Cohen's willing to go $50 million over whatever anybody offers. So it looks like the Mets really want to get this guy. So every report I've seen is that there have been no offers made, but Baerga, who is usually locked into this stuff, says it's $660 for 15 years.
So let's start off by getting to the beginning of this video, because he was responding to the proposed contract offer from Carlos Baerga a couple days ago that we talked on the channel the past couple of days at around $660 million. Now, some people have since ran with that was an official report that the Mets have officially sent in that contract offer, when that simply isn't true. Michael Kay knows that Carlos Baerga has sources, yes, but he's also deciding to push aside the countless times that Baerga has been wrong, including him picking Hector Neris to sign with Michael Kay's New York Yankees last offseason. Freddie Freeman signing with the Toronto Blue Jays a couple years ago instead of going to the LA Dodgers. So Baerga has gone things right, but he's also gone things wrong. And a lot of people have instead ran with this and have said, breaking, the Mets have already put in a contract offer for Juan Soto. There's a reason why I've had a question mark with everything that I've discussed on the Soto front and a contract offer, is as we discussed yesterday as well, Mike Francesa was throwing out there that he's heard rumblings of a contract offer of 12 or 13 years at $702 million by the New York Mets already. So you guys can believe what you want to believe, but please know that until we find out for certain what's happening with Soto and these contract offers, it's a lot of rumblings and it's nothing more. And I don't think anyone should buy into it as the end-all be-all, because it's far from it. Same way that I don't think you should buy into the end-all be-all here from Michael Kay, saying how the Mets are willing to spend $50 million more than any other team for Juan Soto's services, but you definitely have to put some stock into it, knowing that similar to Carlos Baerga, Michael Kay is very much connected to throughout Major League Baseball. Certainly when it comes to things regarding Juan Soto. So for him to already hear this, that the Mets have such a willingness to spend, again, roughly $50 million more than the next team for Soto services tells you all you need to know. The Mets are going to do everything and will continue to do everything in their power to land Juan Soto, rightfully so. And that's why in yesterday's big live show of an hour long, check it out on the platform if you guys haven't already, where we touched on all the latest in Mets land, not regarding the topics in today's discussion. I reiterated how much it baffles me how there are fans out there that don't seem to understand just how talented and just how important a Juan Soto pursuit would be for this New York Metropolitan team. Just the prospect of having Soto in this line for the next 10 to 15 years would not only do wonders, but will certainly help the Mets' chances of actually winning a World Series for the first time since 1986. For them to be 2 games out of the dance against these same New York Yankees, mind you, only faltering to the big bad LA Dodgers, you have to be both confident and optimistic as a Mets fan when evaluating their future, regardless of what happens with Juan Soto and where he lands. Knowing that Juan Soto has been a hot commodity for the Mets for multiple years, and I'll reiterate this once more, as the exact type of feeling and routine that we've seen with the LA Dodgers a couple off seasons ago, allowing Trey Turner to walk in other pieces, basically making lateral moves at best 2 off seasons ago, so they can go scorched earth for Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto last offseason, and they won it all first year in by doing exactly that. Winning helps build championships along with a nice balance of the farm and in-house talent. The Mets are finally having everything balanced on that front. They're just another superstar away from getting where they want to be, and Juan Soto checks off every single box and then some for what Steve Cohen, David Stearns, Carlos Mendoza, and this entire Mets brass are looking for from a generational type hitter this offseason, everybody. So let me know, how do you feel about the Mets potentially offering $50 million more than the next closest team for Soto services? Should that be the case, and should that be the reality? I'm very hard-pressed to believe that Soto will not be in a New York Metropolitan uniform in Flushing, Queens to begin the 2025 season. Knocking out wood, of course, because I'm dying and praying for him just as much as most Mets fans are, but it is very interesting to hear these remarks from Michael Kay when talking about his industry sources that he references all the time on his shows and things of that nature. So now let's go from the Michael Kay Juan Soto discussion, and let's get into the latest signings in Mets land, everybody. And let's start here with the reliever front. Let's get into a very interesting reliever, which is going to be Mr. Justin Hagenman, and I want to give a huge shout out to my man Isaac Groffman on X, who's our fantastic pitching contributor on the platform, who did a nice little breakdown of Hagenman. The Mets have signed Justin Hagenman, per the New York Mets Twitter themselves, to a Major League 1-year contract, and there's an emphasis there. The Mets did not sign this guy to a minor league deal. They signed him to a Major League contract where he will be involved in spring training right away, and for good reason. He's a low 90s guy with 5 distinct pitch shapes, and this is something to really bear in mind when we evaluate pitch shape. If you're wondering, Wardy, why is that? Well, the Mets just hired as their new assistant pitching coach to Germany and Hefner, that being in Desi, I'm going to butcher the last name, Driscoll or Druschel, from the New York Yankees, as a lateral move from the Yankees to the Mets, which was very impressive to see. This man is the pitching guru when it comes to pitch shape itself. So you have to assume that that went at least a little bit in hand with the Mets' decision-making to land said 28-year-old reliever Justin Hagenman here. The changeup is the most intriguing pitch here with good depth and fade. There is another pitcher with upside for the Mets to try out this spring training. That is absolutely true. And as you guys can see from Hagenman's numbers in AAA this past season, in the Boston Red Sox organization, mind you, spent the vast majority of his career in the Dodgers organization up until the past couple years in Boston, and roughly 100 innings this past season, both as a starter and reliever, 28 games total, 15 of them he actually started there stretched out, a sub-5 ERA, a 1.32 whip, a 98 strikeouts, a roughly 10 K per 9 to a respectable 3 walks per 9, and throughout his minor league career, because he has not been in the bigs much at all, 200 games, 25 games started, and 409 innings, a 3.87 ERA, 1.22 whip, and a career 9.3 K per 9 to a 2.7 walks per 9. This, in my opinion, has all the feelings of a very crafty, soft-tossing right-hander that the Mets are going to get some quality outs out of next season. And if you're wondering, Wardy, why exactly is this? The Mets wouldn't have went out their way to sign this man to a major league contract unless they had a confidence level in his ability to potentially impact their bullpen as soon as next season. David Stearns is not going out of his way to acquire these certain arms in the early goings of the offseason without having full belief that, wow, I really like this guy's slider or splitty, or wow, I really love the overall pitch shape that this guy has with his arsenal, and I really think that we can maximize this. This is what happens when you have a so-called pitching lab that the Mets have built over the past couple of years since Steve Cohen has become owner. The same way each and every year, guys, you're going to continue to see more and more talent that you never heard of blossoming into something great in Mets land. Similar to the Tampa Bay Rays, similar to the LA Dodgers, similar to many other organizations in Major League Baseball that are more analytically minded and get the best out of their pitching because of fantastic player development, and also, again, a great pitching lab starting in Port St. Lucie, working all the way up there to Jeremy Hefner at the Major League level. Justin Hagenman, congratulations on becoming a New York Metropolitan, and congratulations in advance on likely having a greater impact in your young career with a Major League club than you ever had to this point, as I have that much confidence in this Mets team getting the best out of these players. If it doesn't work out, that's perfectly fine. The Mets will have many other arms to defer to as they're going to continue to spend plenty this offseason. So that's the latest there on Justin Hagenman, everybody. So now let's go from talking about Hagenman, and now let's get into a bit there. And before I do, he has the sinker, the cutter, the changeup, and the slider. And what stands out to me right there is the 2 S's. Not the 3 S's, but the 2 S's. Sinker, slider, mix. We know how much David Stearns has gotten great usage out of relievers this past year. First year as Pobo with guys that have sinkers, sliders. That's certainly a good thing. I expect that to continue with Juan Hagenman here. So now going from Justin Hagenman, let's talk about another man that the Mets just brought in. And if I can find it, let's see if it's pulled up here. Here we go. Shout out to my amazing editor, Jacob on X, as always, for the fantastic graphics. As you guys can see to the left here, the Mets have made some minor league signings, and we talked about Donovan Walton in our live stream yesterday. Walton is more of that veteran pickup, already at 31 years of age. He's not expected to really impact the Mets at all next season, whereas Rafael Ortega, I honestly think there's some higher optimism of this happening, knowing that he has more Major League experience and knowing that he is one that has fared fairly well in the Mets organization going back to the 2023 season. If you guys remember Rafi Ortega, this is a man that came in for the Mets in 2023 when they had their selling spree at the trade deadline. Of course, just needed guys to go out there and play games, and Ortega was one of them. And this past season, the White Sox organization, mainly in AAA, because the White Sox didn't even want to give much of a leash to Ortega because they rather try it with their in-house talent, even though that they've been far from blossoming. Ortega in 84 games in AAA this past season had himself 11 home runs, 53 RBIs, 17 stolen bags, a 289 average, a 413 on base percentage, and a 498 slug for right around over a 900 OPS. Throughout his MLB career, he's posted 22 home runs, 110 RBIs in over 400 games, 49 stolen bags, a 245 average, a 322 on base percentage, a 349 slug, so right around a 670 OPS or so for just under 2 WAR player. And mind you, Ortega is not a guy that I expect to drastically impact the Mets for the better in 2025, but this is the Ben Gamels of the world, basically, is what the Mets just did here. The Trace Thompsons, even though Trace never impacted the Mets last year, that was another veteran pickup signing heading into spring training that a lot of people wanted to see given a leash. This is along the lines of DJ Stewart's as well. Again, fringe MLB players are going to look to break out big time in spring training, try to crack this Mets bench, and given the lack of outfield depth that the Mets currently have at the moment, I foresee that to change big time by the time we reach this offseason's end. But even having said that, the Mets want to make sure that they have as much depth as possible, and this is the same Rafael Ortega who back in the 2023 season put up some solid numbers with the Mets, nothing crazy, but in 47 games actually, and 136 play appearances, had himself a 219 average, a 341 on base percentage, so he got on base at a good clip. When we looked at the slugging there, nothing crazy, 272 on the slug, 82 WRC plus, so roughly 20% worse than the average batter in baseball. Ortega, what are you getting at absolute best? A league average defender. He's slightly in the negative, but he's pretty much league average here wherever you're going to throw him, likely in the corner outfields. Just provides more depth for you. Again, an MLB-S hitter who, again, if you need to call upon in pinch hit situations, especially if the Mets deal with any early ailments throughout the course of the season, should he stay in your organization and crack the team out of camp to begin in either AAA or off the bench, Ortega is just a nice veteran pickup, similar to the Jackie Bradley Jr.'s that the Mets did halfway through the season last year as well. Just MLB veterans that can impact the Mets in a pinch if need be. Not guys that you want to rely on or defer to be everyday players, but certainly ones that have an upper edge over, say, more inexperienced AAA players who are already 27, 28 years of age that haven't been given an opportunity and likely won't be because they haven't had any MLB experience. Not the case here in Brian Ortega, so not Brian Ortega and Rafael Ortega. Brian Ortega, for those that don't know, is a UFC fighter. Rafael Ortega is now in New York Metropolitan for the second time in his career. So let me know how you guys feel about that, everybody. And now before we wrap up the live show, let's get into the final thing that I want to share with each and every one of you. And this comes from Will Salmon, who does a tremendous job there on the beat through The Athletic for the Mets. And he posted an article earlier which stated, not long ago rather, because this actually came out over the past couple of days, but it holds true. Luis Severino is likely to decline his qualifying offer, in which he has until 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to do exactly that, November 19th, if I'm not mistaken. Sevy's looking for a multi-year deal. Severino was one of the few pitchers who I honestly thought the Mets could bring back on a QO. I was a little surprised to find out right away that that wasn't going to be the case, especially with how this year's market is. But Severino, I have to give him credit. He's looking for a multi-year deal. I commend him for that. Hopefully the Mets bring him back on a 2 or 3 year deal, but if it doesn't happen, I wish him the best with his future endeavors. Same applies, and this is more expected here with one Sean Manaea, broken from Alden Gonzalez earlier today, who does a fantastic job as an MLB reporter through ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. He states how Sean Manaea will reject the Mets' $21.5 million qualifying offer. Nick Martinez is accepting his with the Reds that we saw as well. But in the case of not only Alonso, but Manaea and Severino, all guys that the Mets threw the qualifying offer at, all guys that will be declining the qualifying offer, looking for bigger paydays. And in the case of Sean Manaea, he will likely be looking for a contract similar, if I had to assume, to one of Taijuan Walker that he signed a couple years ago from the Philadelphia Phillies, in that same realm. 3-4 year deal, anywhere from 55 to 60 to 80 million dollars. Again, it can jump depending on exactly how many years he's getting and how desperate a team is to potentially overspend for his services. Sean Manaea loved being here, just like Severino. Two fantastic clubhouse talents, both in-house and on the field, dominating on the mound. Two guys we would have loved back in Queens, but certainly at the right price and not on a massive overpay if you don't have to do that. So Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, Pete Alonso, I hope to see you guys all return, but that is far from a guarantee at this point in time. So everybody, thank you all so much for chiming into the latest in Mets land as we broke down all their latest key signings, the latest on the qualifying offer front, which we will talk more on tomorrow in either a live show and or video, and of course that big Juan Soto update to begin tonight's discussion. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, smash that like and subscribe on your way out. Let me know your continued thoughts on the Juan Soto sweepstakes and everything else involved in comments down below. And this is your guy Wardy signing out. Have a great one, everybody, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.